Alright guys, welcome back to Formula 1 Drama. One of the key questions going into 2023 is how long and how well will Max Verstappen and Sergio Perez's relationship hold up within that Red Bull camp, especially after what happened in Brazil. All the more so because new comments have come to light from Verstappen stating that second drivers should really just get in line to help their team out rather than living in a fairy tale land that are actually going to beat the main guy. Very much enjoyed your thoughts in the comment section below. Hit the like button if you enjoy, subscribe if you're new as always. So this came out a couple of days ago now on this Viaplay interview that happened with Verstappen, and also his father was there. Not really sure why this seems to happen so often where Verstappen's on an interview, as is Jos. There was kind of a round table thing going on here, as you guys can see. But he was asked a question about second drivers and effectively gave the idea that the number 2 drivers on the team can't live in this fairy tale land where they're actually going to be competitive with the main guy, but they should effectively just, get in line and do what is expected of them. So he talks really about the Bottas situation at Mercedes, that effectively saying that Bottas wouldn't have survived in Formula 1 if he hadn't accepted that Hamilton was the stronger driver. Going on to say this, every year he starts fresh, but after a few races you realise it's not going to happen again and you have to accept your role. Bottas still finished on podiums, won a few races, took pole positions. You just have to accept that the driver next to you is just a bit better. That's fine, it can happen. It's important that he accepted it. Some drivers can't do that and then it goes completely wrong. They don't survive for very long. I'm not going to name names, but you have to accept your role. You can't live in a fairy tale world. So it seems difficult that Verstappen could have said this without, at least in the back of his mind, thinking about the relationship they currently have at Red Bull. Basically saying that, look, Bottas wasn't the same as Hamilton was. He had to accept that, and once he did and accepted his role that he had to do within the team, then he had a successful career. Bottas very well liked by Mercedes, by Hamilton, by the F1 community at large. He got his podiums, he got his race wins, he got his pole positions, obviously a very good qualifier, Valtteri Bottas as well, and some good comparisons between, as he states, for Bottas and also what Perez achieved in the past season. Had a pole position or two, had 2 race wins in Monaco and in Singapore, had obviously plenty of podiums, but didn't win the title, wasn't even close to winning the title because Verstappen just absolutely ran away with it. So, I mean, look, he says it's fine to have a few races at the start of the season where you see how things are going, see if you're competitive, and once you're not, just accept it, get in line, and don't live in this fairy tale land where, you actually think you can still be the number 1 guy. So just interesting statements, especially in light of what we saw Perez say back in Brazil to Verstappen, and also the other way around. Kind of, let's just say Perez was challenging the authority and the status of Verstappen in that case, and Verstappen is it's not like he's responding to Perez directly here, but read between the lines a little bit in terms of what he expects from his teammates, and we might get somewhere. Now, Jos Verstappen also mentioned this and said, Bottas is now towards the end of his career. He's had his chance in Mercedes. He's gone to Alfa Romeo. He's on his last stint. So I don't know if Jos Verstappen's also trying to imply here that, well, if Perez, if he doesn't comply, if he gets booted out of Red Bull, then that's it for Perez's career, which you could argue it probably is. So Perez has some things to think about, right, going into the upcoming season, because if he is a bit more rebellious this upcoming year, feels like, you know what, I'm not going to take this disrespect from Verstappen. I'm going to try and be more competitive, not just going to roll over and be the support guy as he's done many times. Maybe even Perez denies a couple of team orders just to try and, show that he's not just there to help Verstappen win the title, but wants a little bit more respect for himself. I don't know. I feel like a lot of fans would like to see what would happen as a result. And also I do wonder, who's Verstappen talking about when he says that some drivers don't accept that they're number 2 and then things go wrong? It's kind of funny really because of what happened back in Brazil. And I mean, look, I wonder if he's talking about any of the current grid pairings. There's maybe a couple of examples. I like Carlos Sainz. I think he's a good driver, but he's certainly not a driver that's willing to accept being number 2 to Charles Leclerc. And certainly, depending on the way that Vasseur at Ferrari deals with that situation, that could be a situation waiting to explode within Ferrari if we see them adopt a Red Bull-esque attitude towards their drivers. Also, one other example I thought was interesting was what's happened at Alpine. Yes, Ocon outplaced Alonso in the championship based on points, but it was quite clear that Alonso was the stronger driver this season. Ocon had a good season, I think there's no doubt about it, but Alonso was stronger, but Ocon's, never going to be willing to accept being number 2. If he was put next to Verstappen, if he was put next to Hamilton, he would 100% try and beat them and not accept being, second fiddle. So, maybe Verstappen's right to say that similar relationships can go wrong, but it's almost like he's saying, look, Perez, be careful here. Make sure you know where you are. Don't live in a fairy tale land, and do the job to help us deliver the results, because obviously we saw what Perez was saying back in Brazil. Shows who he really is after failing to concede the position, and race fans put Sergio Perez as number 9 in their driver rankings. Not especially impressive across the course of the season. Did well at the start, fell off massively towards the ends, and it's quite likely, I would say, with Verstappen and Perez as a pairing, that they're going to need Perez to, maybe be second fiddle to Verstappen and happily accept that role if they want to succeed again in the Drivers' Championship, or maybe the Constructors as well. Just because this season the car was so good, doesn't matter what was happening with Verstappen, he was going to win the title with Ferrari's mistakes that they made in the early part of the season, and honestly, all through the season, to be honest. But there's a world in which Mercedes are more competitive next year, Ferrari are more competitive with Red Bull next year, if they have a great car and they have a great engine. We'll discuss that here in a second, and therefore they're going to need, from a strategy perspective, Perez to help out Verstappen, and we have seen his words on helping out Verstappen very recently back in Brazil when he said, look, if Max has 2 championships, it's thanks to me. So look, I don't know if any of these words, like, they say at Red Bull that all this has been resolved behind the scenes, but who knows what's going to happen next season, right? Especially with Verstappen kind of implying, like, look, make sure you're careful, Sergio, or we're going to find a good replacement for you. And the thing is, like, I don't know who they'd even replace Perez with theoretically, because no one has been incredibly impressive from the AlphaTauri side. Like, I don't really know if Yuki Tsunoda's going to happen for that. I don't know about Nick De Vries personally. Some of the juniors in Red Bull, Liam Lawson and others, have looked okay. Ayumi Iwasa, I'm pretty sure is his name, has looked pretty impressive as well. But, not exactly going to be ready to step up straight into that Red Bull seat. Now, Daniel Ricciardo is there sitting as their reserve driver, but he also isn't just going to step in and be a happy second driver either. So maybe Perez has to reconsider that, maybe I do just need to do what team principal Max Verstappen wants me to do, and if I don't, then, my career might be over. So who knows? Intrigued your thoughts on that in the comment section below, though, because I don't think Verstappen's necessarily wrong, and in many ways there's probably a lot of truth to what he's saying there, and I don't think Perez was particularly impressive this season, but nonetheless, if we see the start of next season get kind of feisty, we know Verstappen's opinion on second drivers and where they should believe themselves to be. So that's pretty spicy stuff, I thought. Quick mention on the teams in general going into next year. An interesting Amos article comes out largely discussing the Ferrari potential for the new season. Obviously, they've got a new team principal in, Fred Vasseur's coming through, and in order to make it a smooth transition and not to fall off the pace, they're going to have a good car next season. Now, they believe their power unit is going to be mega next year. So they had issues with the power unit, right? It was very powerful at the start of the year. It tended to explode, though. They had to turn it down quite a lot, and it had problems due to its valves or something during the season. This has been improved, and therefore they can come to Bahrain 2023 with at least the same power, if not greater power, than they had in 2022. They also describe here how the French upgrade package increased the downforce, but it made the aero somewhat imbalanced, which hurt their tyre degradation, which is quite interesting as well. And just some rumours, right, that Vasseur's going to bring Simone Resta, who I believe went from Ferrari to Haas. He might come back to Ferrari, so that's another possibility there. And also Giuliano De Kessa comments on this and says the target is to have more horsepower than the Bahrain 2022 GP for more time, stating there's a little bit of work to do, but it's looking good for Ferrari to have an incredibly powerful engine. If they can have a powerful engine, then that will help them nicely, especially because Red Bull have been rapid in a straight line this year. Quick comment as well on Vasseur and the issues that they had internally there at Ferrari, getting it all sorted, because he's the driver coach for Porsche, and they had to work that out. I think they decided a long time ago now that they wanted Vasseur to be their Binotto replacement, and finally they kind of came to a conclusion where that would work. The other question is, where's Binotto going to go and what's going to happen to his future? Because there's some rumours in this article that Andrea Seidel, who has left McLaren to go to Audi, well, Sauber as it currently is, as their CEO, is really becoming the CEO to prepare Sauber for the Audi integration, which apparently will happen in 2025, and then he expects Seidel to step back into the team principal role at Audi Sauber instead of at McLaren. So that is the present rumour that's going around there. And Michael Schmidt also wrote the article, reckons it's unlikely that Binotto will join Sauber with Andrea Seidel over there, and will instead, consider how things are going. We'll take a break, see how things are developing. The break might be forced as well due to the garden leave and stuff that Ferrari will probably implement, so he can't just join another team and theoretically give them all the information straight away, even though McLaren found a way to not really have too much consequences with the Sauber move, which is still Alfa Romeo Sauber as it stands. That move for Andrea Seidel. So those are the updates as of today. Very much intrigued to your thoughts on all this stuff in the comment section below. Hit the like button if you enjoyed, subscribe if you are new, take care, and I'll see you next time.